How's it going, Fiery 49 folks? We're at the house. Please excuse the messy workbench. We're doing some home remodeling, and there's lots of stuff in the garage and on the bench that shouldn't be out here or wouldn't be here on a normal day. But look past the clutter. Here's our fuel pump. Mike, good job. Mike is much smarter and much more experienced than I am at old things, and he expressed doubts in the comments about this being the original fuel pump. I do think it's probably the original fuel pump or an original style fuel pump because these are rebuildable. They actually used to be what you did is you rebuilt the pump. You didn't buy a new one. So, but as we cleaned things up and got to looking and paying attention, pretty certain that should have rebuilt if all that sticker was still left there. So, looks to be an OEM style pump just because of the materials, the pins, the older style slotted head screws instead of a modern bolt head or a Phillips like a lot of the reproductions and newer remanufacturers get. So good call, Mike. Mike is very smart. Mike has his own YouTube channel, Wrench Guy. Excellent channel. He's got all kinds of cool old stuff, so you should go check out his channel for sure. And he's got a much wider variety of cool things than we have with just our single fire truck. But anyway, fuel pump's rebuilt. If you listen here, that sound you hear, that's the pump pushing air instead of fuel. But basic rundown of this style fuel pump. Gas comes to here from the fuel tank. In our truck, it's behind the seat. Basically, gravity lets it flow to here. The little square on the inside, fuel will pop up through that. There's no check valves. There's nothing. It's just a hole. So it comes up, flows in, kind of fills this sight glass. The purpose of this is the fuel comes in and anything from the fuel tank, whether it was pumped in, the tank corrosion, that kind of stuff, it comes in and the heavy sediment will settle in the bottom of this bowl here. This is how they did it before, inline fuel filters, paper filters, that kind of stuff. But your heavy sediment, things you don't want going to the carburetor, settle in here. This is made to be taken off and serviced and cleaned. And then in the top here, that's a really fine mesh brass topper that is a kind of a final filter so that anything that may be floating gets caught on the top of it. But fuel flows in freely just based on the head pressure into here, fills up the sight glass, and then this is a positive displacement pump. So half the housings right here, this is a diaphragm and the gasket. It creates the seal between the two halves. It's also a diaphragm that moves up and down. You can see the recessed area. So this rides on the camshaft in the engine, and as the camshaft spins, it pushes that end, and that pushing draws down, pulls down the diaphragm. That displaces the area with the diaphragm, which has the rubber membrane around it, pulls down, area of low pressure as it goes back up, positive pressure, and pushes it out of this port. There is a check valve in the cap here built in so that once fuel gets pushed out, it can't come back. That keeps, since this is going to go up the engine, up to the carburetor, to make sure the engine starts quickly and fuel is always there, readily available. The check valve makes sure that the fuel doesn't flow back in once it's been pumped. So when you shut the truck off and it's not spinning and not being pumped, it basically just holds the fuel in the line between the carburetor and here so that when you go to start the truck the next time, the fuel is right there ready to go. It just has to start filling it again. It's very low pressure. This thing would only produce a couple PSI. Carburetors don't need much. You just have to overcome the head pressure to get to the top of the engine, and then the needle and seat will lift when the fuel bowl is low on the carburetor and pump it in. But basic stuff, we should be good. We were leaking around the sediment bowl sight glass here. We cut new gaskets out of a roll here, made a new gasket for the block mounting flange. Didn't put a new gasket here because since this was rebuilt and in very good condition, the rubber part of the diaphragm inside in great shape, looked to be good. We just put some gasket tack back on around it. New gaskets here, new thread sealant, but should be good to go once we're back on. I'm pretty certain the old rubber gasket inside here, it had just hardened up, and also just engine vibration worked things loose. And once it worked loose and broke the seal, it just wouldn't tighten back up because the rubber was too hard to make back up cleanly, and it was seeping around. So anyway, basic fuel pump. I think these were 37 to 51-ish style. I think it's the era of these before they converted to the newer style, and eventually this went away and the sediment bowl went away and you had inline filters and that kind of stuff. The same basic principle of the mechanical pump continued well up into fuel injection carburation, or not carburation, but the fuel injection, which requires higher pressure. So they went from a mechanical fuel pump like this and went to electrics for the higher pressure and stuff. But pretty neat, simple stuff, easy to fix. Do it on the workbench. It should all be so easy.